Kant thought that there were other absolutes that he thought followed from his categorical imperative. In particular, in a famous or notorious short essay, he said that there are no exceptions to the rule that you should not lie. He thought that the rule you should never tell a lie is an exceptionless moral rule. And a French philosopher of his period, Benjamin Constant, had said, this can't be an absolute rule. He said, imagine that there's a would-be murderer who is chasing his victim, wants to kill him, and this victim comes to your house and says, can I hide inside your house? And you say, yes, go down to the basement and hide in the closet there. And then there's a knock at the door, it's the murderer, or the would-be murderer. He says, have you seen so-and-so? And what are you going to say here? If you tell the truth, he's going to search your house until he finds this person and then kill him. So, again, pretty much everybody would agree, I think, not everybody, but most people would agree, that in these circumstances it's justifiable to lie. But Kant said, no, it's not. And Kant gave a rather strange sort of reason here. I mean, in a way, what he's saying is he thinks that this is a rule that you couldn't universalize telling a lie. That is, you can't say it's okay to tell lies when it's convenient to do so, because if you did that, then nobody would believe anybody who might be in circumstances where it might be inconvenient to tell the truth, and therefore just the convention of telling the truth would collapse, and so the rule can't be universalized. That was his overall view. But again, as we saw in the last lecture, you could make the rule much more specific. You could make the rule like, if it's necessary to tell a lie in order to save an innocent human life, then you may tell a lie. And I don't see why you couldn't universalize that. It's true that somebody who wants to kill an innocent human being would then realise that they might be being lied to, but still, that would seem to be a better consequence than telling them the truth in these circumstances, which would lead to the death of the innocent person. So this seems to be another example where it's difficult to defend the rule defend the idea that they're exceptionless moral rules, although I'll come in a moment to another suggested defence of that view. If anybody wants to make any comments or has a question or objection, by the way, feel free to put up your hand, and I'm happy to take questions as I go along. Okay, let's look at another view about what might be exceptionless principles in some people's ideas. And here's a very famous statement about rights, because a lot of people think, well, there are rights that are without exception, and we should never violate individual rights. So this is Thomas Jefferson's statement that it's self-evident that we're created equal and that we have certain unalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, there's a lot of things that could be said about this statement. It's obviously a fine and powerful piece of rhetoric, but does it stand up to philosophical scrutiny? One question is, are these rights or any list of rights self-evident? That is it obvious just when we look at the idea that we have these rights? You might think, well, yes, what's wrong with saying we have rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? But these are very broad rights, and it does seem obvious that you cannot say that everybody has the rights to act in these ways, or these rights, in all kinds of circumstances, because clearly they're going to clash. Obviously, the right to the pursuit of happiness is something which is going to clash with other people's rights to the pursuit of their happiness. In all sorts of circumstances, but if you people compete for scarce goods. So you might want something of which there's only one, and somebody else might want it too. If you imagine a sort of simple state of nature kind of case, you may be wandering through the forest and you may see a patch of delicious ripe raspberries and you think, well, I have a right to pursue my happiness and it involves eating these raspberries, so I'm going to eat them. But there may be various other people converging on these raspberries with exactly the same thought from different directions. You can't all have as many raspberries as you would like. There just aren't enough. So you have the right to pursue your happiness, but does that mean you have the right to stop other people from picking the raspberries that they have a right to pick? What exactly is going to go on here? You need to have something to sort out an obvious clash of rights. And the same can be said about the right to liberty. You need to define the liberties that you have a right to. They can't include rights to hurt others, and it doesn't seem that they can include rights to take everything that is available, even in nature, if everybody else has that right as well. And even questions like the right to life, you have to consider what exactly is meant by that, and obviously in this country it's not assumed that the self-evidence of the right to life means that capital punishment is wrong, or that killing in war is wrong, killing in self-defense is wrong. So there are many exceptions. I'd also like to mention, and again this is another marker for what we're going to be talking about in a week or so, the idea that these rights are unalienable. That is, that we can't give them up. And in particular, the one that some people say you can't give up is the right to life. But there are circumstances in which some people say, my life has lost positive value, perhaps because I'm dying of a terminal disease and already my quality of life has fallen to a point that is unacceptable to me, and all the medical opinion that I have says that that's just going to get worse and worse until I die. So I wish to end my life now. Is that a violation of your own right to life? If your own right to life is unalienable, then it would seem it would. And that would be a reason for thinking that it's wrong to permit physician-assisted dying or voluntary euthanasia. But again, it doesn't seem that that's doesn't seem clear why that should be so. So there's a lot of questions. If you want to start with an idea of rights as something that's going to be inviolable, you're going to have to come up with things that are more specific than this. Otherwise, we're again going to get into a balancing, at least of one person's right against another person's rights, or perhaps of the rights of the group, of the state, or something like that, against individual rights. And those are also questions that I'm going to give examples of in just a moment. So here too, it's difficult to defend the idea of absolute rules.